Hello, everyone. Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock. I'm Jane Monreal. You are watching Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. Thank you for spending part of your morning with us. We want to take a look at weather because today is a nice day in the Charlotte area, but is it going to stay that way? We have Chris Mulcahy in the Live Impact studio now, and already we are in hurricane season. I know you have your eye on a bit of a disturbance, do you call it?
Yeah, we'll call it, tropical disturbance.
There you go.
And it's going to try to become a number or a name. And I think it's going to be a feeble attempt, but we'll get to what I'm talking about. Yeah, so the tropics already starting to cook a little bit, but there's a few things that are going to prevent it. But let's focus in on the good. And today isn't just a great day. It is my pick of the week. Okay, so since my pick of the week, and this was actually really tough, I think that yesterday probably would have been a little bit more deserving, but a lot of people still like the mid-80s. So I kept it a little bit on the warmer side for a lot of us. Great for the kids going to like a splash pad or by the pool, anything outside. 85 degrees is comfortable. We're going to be at the point that 85 to 90 degrees is not going to feel comfortable because you're going to have a lot more moisture that's in the air. So good things happening for today. For our next graphic, you're going to see the big reason why is because we are going to see temperatures a little bit cooler, more clouds start to move back in, but we're still in the sweet spot. Today and tomorrow still feeling okay, but here's the big change that you can expect. For our dew points, today is the only day that's hanging out in the brown, which is the comfortable area. That is that drier air that's still not too bad. It still could feel like an 83 is more like 84, but that's not terrible. It's really, once you get to about that 65 degree point, these are dew points, it shows how much moisture is in the air. At that point, you're feeling it. And once you have one around 70, it's that air you can wear. So that's going to be the big change. By Monday especially, it's that air that's around you, the humidity that we're used to. So if this is your jam, maybe your pick of the week is a little bit later on with the chance for thunderstorms. Now let's get to the main event. So here's the big difference from the last time I was talking to you here in the Impact Studio. We were talking about a disturbance, a tropical disturbance, but now that the National Hurricane Center has brought some attention to it, it's now a 10% chance, which isn't good. I wouldn't bet my money on anything that was 10%, but a 10% chance here is showing that over the next 2 days, that's why these two numbers match. The top one is showing the next 2 days, the one on the bottom is showing the next 2 to 7 days, that we could have either a tropical depression or a tropical storm. So if this has a tight center of circulation, isn't attached to any fronts and is a warm core, and is either a tropical or subtropical system, so there's a bunch of boxes that need to be checked by the National Hurricane Center. If the winds are sustained at 35 miles per hour, technically 38 or below, it's tropical depression. It would be TD number 1. But if, say, it exceeds expectations, I'm wrong. The National Hurricane Center is like, whoa, where did that come from? This would be our first tropical storm, and that's Tropical Storm Andrea. Again, likely not going to happen. But don't just focus in on the name. I still think that we're going to have some big impacts associated with this. So what's going to happen is this is going to turn into a low pressure system that starts to churn its way a little bit closer to the coast. So as we change graphics, you're going to see that there is a defined area, this blob of green, once you get to about Thursday morning. There's one of two scenarios that happen here. One, it stays on the shoreline and then immediately decides to go out in the Atlantic. It's like, I'm done with you, Carolinas, be gone. It's still going to keep things cloudier Wednesday heading into Thursday, but it depends on how far west it goes. If this travels or trends a little bit further west, we're going to see a little bit more rain. Then here's a scenario that we could see for our future casts in a little bit more detail come Thursday at 7 a.m. This is the wettest scenario that I'm seeing here, and we weren't really seeing this yesterday. So if we're seeing a little bit more rain, if this trends a little bit more of a landfalling low, that's what we could see potentially to start off your Thursday morning. So it's primarily south of I-85, areas east, that could be under the gun for this. But Carlene's about to show you another map here. This is the concern that we have, and it's these rain totals. See that area of purple that's right by me? Here, yeah, get my head out of there. 1 to 3 inches of rain is possible for our far eastern zones. We're even pinpointing right around Fayetteville about 3 to 4 inches of rain. And just recently, there was some pretty epic video that came on the coast where a parking lot was underwater from flash flooding, and they saw about 5 inches there. We saw what happened in Stanley County recently for a bunch of thunderstorms. So we will have the potential for flash flooding really further east that you go associated with this system. So I want everyone to kind of disregard the chance that it's going to be either a number or a name. There's still going to be some decent impacts, but truly, Charlotte is more trending that could see a little bit of rain, nothing really big, and most of the flash flooding concern is well outside of our area. I'm just talking about the Carolinas as a whole. So we're not going weather alert or anything here for this. I think it's just general rain. It'll be cloudy, but this is at least our first taste of what the tropics can bring. All right, let's wrap this all up with a nice 7-day bow, as we like to do. And you can see just for icons alone why today is the pick of the week. It's the only one that has the sunny symbol. Outside of that, it's a mostly cloudy to an overcast day on Wednesday. It's much cooler on Thursday because I don't think we really see the sunshine all that much. And then we have a mix of cloud and sunshine on what I'm calling hot, humid days with the usual, hey, you have a 20 to 40% chance for a shower or thunderstorm to pop up late afternoon heading into the evening. Look, I'm like a robot. And that's exactly what we're going to see. Still a chance for our first 90-degree high heading into Saturday, but we really are flipping the switch over to summer. So it feels a lot more summer-like. That's why today is one of those days. Yesterday was as well. You take advantage of it because we're pretty much going to have the same forecast going forward unless we get a tropical system, as you can see here.
All right. Very gorgeous, isn't it? Lovely.
I think so. Lovely.
Yeah.
Indubitably.
Indubitably. 90 degrees and a little bit of a tropical action.
No, literally everything that June brings, we're doing it all in 1 week. So why not, right?
Yeah, up and down, no problem. All right, hurricane special. What did you learn? Anything new covering this hurricane special that's going to air on Wednesday?
Well, I think that we're always learning new things as meteorologists, and that's one thing I think in life you should never stop learning. And one thing that I think that I really learned from this special is we're going through all the different runs is how history tends to repeat itself. And what I think is what is really justifying there is like taking Helene, for example. Back in 1916, there was a similar setup that there was a big time tropical storm that was slow moving that saturated the soils, followed by an immediate other one. So that'd be very similar to the precursor rain event. But history repeated itself just over 100 years later. We're now looking at kind of testimonies of the past, like where things were with La Nina and El Nino, how things have repeated themselves. So I think as we really comb through the data, and I know yesterday I was kind of comparing things to 2017 where we had Harvey, Maria, we're starting off the exact same atmosphere, the exact same setup, similar water temperatures. So I am kind of learning that it's good to kind of look at the years that start that way, because oftentimes they will kind of realign. And the last time that we had a non-landfalling system here in the United States was 2015, Jane. So it's been nearly a decade since we haven't had one make landfall. I would love that this year not be the one that we don't have a landfalling hurricane. But at this point, just with the waters and things really forming in the Gulf especially, I think it's tough. So I think the one thing that I've really learned is to always look back into the past, the data, comb through it, because if you can find those commonalities, you can kind of see how things realign.
Yeah, I mean, that is why we look at history, right? To learn from it and proceed better, hopefully, be more prepared looking into the future.
And one more thing that I learned, we got the best weather team in Charlotte, so come check us out. It's going to be awesome.
All right, very good. So this Wednesday again, 8 p.m. On WCNC Charlotte, as well as WCNC Plus, 8 o'clock. Put that on your radar. Good information.
And tomorrow you're giving us a quiz, right?
Yes, I am. Woo! I actually already was writing questions down. I'm going to give you, I don't know, how many questions do we want to do?
It's up to you.
That's up to me.
We've got nothing but time. You know that.
Well, we have nothing but time.
Yes. Kristen has
well, because it's just about making the graphics. Yeah, but I already made 2 questions for you, so as I'm kind of combing through things, I'm really excited about this. But here's the best thing, is you might get some wrong tomorrow, but after that special, you'll be able to get them all right, because we're going to raise that hurricane IQ.
Yay. All right, and we might have some follow-up questions that we could also
hey,
future IQs.
I'm always here, because a lot of people will, as I'm out and about, will ask me weather questions, like, oh, I'm sorry not to know you. I was like, no, this is what I love.
Who knew?
Like, truly, the weather IQ aspect of my job is my favorite thing that we do, just because I think the coolest thing about the weather is no matter who you are, you have an interest in some degree. May it be just what's the weather going to be today, or wait, why does that happen? So yeah, if you ever see me out and about or on here, you two especially, if you have a question, ask it. I love to do it. And on the thought, I'll be honest. If I don't know the answer, I'll let you know, but I will find that answer within 24 hours.
All right, transparency. Like that.
Thank you.
You like candy? You like candy, Chris?
I love candy.
Yeah? What's your sweet treat of choice?
It's definitely the more fruity side of things. I could go for a Skittle, Starburst.
Yeah. Taste the rainbow.
Yeah. I'm a big sour.
Sour
big sour.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, girlfriend here brings in the sours.
I love the Sour Punch straws. Ooh.
Oh yeah, Sour Punch straws. Yeah, there's Airhead does these sours. They're pretty recently. Yeah, so that's the realm I like to live in. I'm glad we shared that.
Yeah.
Fun fact of the day, because you know what, we got to transition into Live Impact Studio. It is Candy Month. Did you know?
I didn't know this. Okay, I'll stick around. Where's the candy?
There's no candy, but we have someone.
We'll get you some.
Okay.
We have one to talk about the candy. It is Carly Schildhouse. She is from the National Confectioners Association, Carly. And this is something sweet, new survey data showing that we have some surprising candy habits. Carly, interesting that candy is part of our daily lives.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And of course, happy National Candy Month to what sounds like some big time candy lovers in your studio. We did ask Americans for their favorite summer treats, and we found out that people like those treats that can take the heat. So some of the stuff you guys just mentioned, gummy candy, hard candy, those products that can really last all day if you are at the pool, at a barbecue, or outside in any way. But it's probably no surprise to know that people love chocolate for summer as well. They love it year round and certainly enjoy it for the summer. I say lean into the melty, enjoy it in a s'more is a great option. And then you can't talk about summer without talking about that iconic summer treat of taffy. So whether it's a memory of being on the boardwalk by the beach or just enjoying it in general, those are some of America's top summer treats.
And I definitely partake in once in a while dark chocolate. But let's talk about how the industry manages sugar intake and what are the tips that we can use to, watch that as well.
Yeah, of course, chocolate and candy have this unique ability to brighten moods and lighten spirits, but people do understand that chocolate and candy are treats. So people in the US on average enjoy chocolate and candy about 2 to 3 times per week, averaging 40 calories and 1 teaspoon of added sugar per day. People know that they are not meal replacements. They're not center of the plate foods. They are occasional treats to enjoy, and manufacturers are looking to meet consumers where they want to be met by offering a variety of package sizes to help with sharing those treats.
Anything in moderation, I suppose. Got to feed the morale and the sweet treat. Let's talk about the economic impact that the candy and confectioners industry brings to Americans.
Yeah, of course. The people think of chocolate and candy as little treats, but they have a really big impact. Chocolate and candy are produced in all 50 states, so no matter what community you are in the U.S., there is a treat that is produced nearby. The industry is a $54 billion industry. We do expect that will grow to $70 billion by 2029. And of course, it is a big economic push in terms of jobs in the U.S. We have more than 58,000 people working in confectionery manufacturing, and for every one confectionery manufacturing job, another 11 are supported in other industries.
All right, Carly. Anything else that you might find interesting now that, different candies are out there? We like the old school candies. And again, promoting the sweet industry in a now consumerism that also tries to balance health and moderation.
Yeah, innovation is really key to the confectionery industry. So whether that is a variety of preferences and flavor preferences or dietary considerations. Again, the manufacturers of chocolate and candy are looking to meet consumers where they want to be met. We just wrapped up the Sweets and Snacks Expo, which is the biggest candy and snack show here in the Americas. And we saw people looking for bold flavors, looking for limited time offerings, some get it while you can treats, and also looking for those products that are going to enhance seasons and celebrations throughout the year.
All right, Carly Childhouse from the National Confectioners Association. Thanks for a little bit of our own sweet treat of food for thought as we kick off summer and National Candy Month. Enjoy, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, happy National Candy Month.
Yeah, happy National Candy Month to you, too. Take care. All right, very sweet. Let's talk about Karen Reed now as we are back out here in the Live Impact studio. Things getting very spicy this week into the 7th week. This is, of course, the retrial for the woman charged in the death of her boyfriend at a house party back in 2022. It ended in a hung jury last year, so this is a second go at it. And now the defense taking its turn after the prosecution rested its case last week. There were some testimonies yesterday, rather. Witnesses were being grilled, and it was getting, again, very contentious at times. So let's go ahead and listen in. This seems to be a new witness on the stand this morning. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
And make a suggestion about what is training versus what is experience, but he did not help me write the report.
Did you have any help trying to describe methodology?
No.
Did you have any help talking about differential diagnosis?
No, I'm very familiar with differential
And
diagnosis.
so, after that report was written, is there any reason why some of your opinions have changed?
I don't believe my opinions have changed.
When you testified at the hearing last year, June 21st, 2024, did you express that you couldn't say with 100% certainty what type of animal, in your opinion, caused those wounds?
100% certainty, that is absolutely correct. And I'd like to see that, but yes, That's my recollection.
If it's your recollection, I'm happy to show you what
Yes,
you just
please.
testified to. You want to
Yes.
see it again?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, between last night and today, did you get any advice from anybody suggesting you should ask for a transcript when I ask you a question? Did that advice come your way?
That's my general advice from previous times.
Well, did you have any advice last night about that?
Yes.
Who told you last night that you should always ask for a transcript when I'm asking you questions?
Well, I think it was just Mr. Alessi.
So did you and Mr. Alessi, you know there's a sequestration order, don't you?
Yes.
That's a sequestration order that you're not supposed to discuss the case at all with anybody?
Well, we
during the
didn't. We didn't discuss specifics.
Do you know that the sequestration order mandates that you not discuss anything about the case from when you start your testimony until you end your testimony? You know that, right?
I understand that there is a sequestration order.
Do you understand the sequestration order mandates that you're not supposed to speak to people, including the attorneys, about this case overnight? Did you understand that?
There were no specifics discussed.
Or did you understand that you weren't supposed to, is what I'm asking? Did you know that's a violation of the sequestration
No, I
order
didn't.
to speak to the attorneys overnight?
I did not know that that particular conversation would be a violation.
So did you meet with Attorney Alessi last night?
No.
How was it that you had a conversation with him?
Actually, it might have been in the vehicle.
You drove together?
Yes.
So did you commute to and from court together with Attorney Alessi?
Well, there's a driver.
Okay, who else is in the car when you left court yesterday?
The driver.
When
Oh,
you-
no, I wasn't with him yesterday, no. Not in the car yesterday, no.
Well, you just said that you spoke to Attorney Alessi yesterday. And I'm trying to figure out, when was it that you were having conversations with Mr. Alessi relative to this sequestration order that you're under?
This morning, riding to court
Okay, so you and Attorney Alessi drove to court?
with the limo driver, yes.
Well, who was in the limo with you and Attorney Alessi on the way to court today?
Just us.
Just you two?
Yeah.
What else did you both talk about other than that you should ask for a transcript every time I ask you a question?
That's what we talked about specific to this case.
Was it a long conversation?
No, not at all.
The entire ride here, there must be more you spoke about other than just a sequestration order.
We did. We spoke about Boston, how I love Boston area. We spoke about New York. We spoke about other things. And in fact, I have to say that even on the ride back to the hotel yesterday, with others in the car, nobody spoke about the case.
But I'm talking about this morning when you did speak about the case. What else? Not about the Red
That's-
Sox or the weather. What else did you talk to Attorney Alessi about this morning other than you should ask for a transcript every time I ask you a question?
We talked about what I did last night.
About this case?
No,
I'm sorry, but I'm asking about this case.
that was it.
I want to know what all the discussions were between you and this attorney today or last night about this case.
Just that I should ask for a transcript.
Well, there must have been some there must have been some context. He didn't just turn to you talking about the weather and say, hey, you should ask for a transcript. You must have been talking about something.
He also generally, not today, but generally says, be honest. Always be honest.
Fantastic. But this morning about your testimony, what did he tell you? Did he tell you this morning you should be honest?
Not this morning.
Okay. Does anybody need to remind you to be honest when you testify?
No.
Okay. What else did he tell? How did it come up? Hey, by the way, ask for transcripts.
I don't even know how it came up. I didn't put much significance to it.
Well, it was just moments ago it happened because you just got to court. You can't remember the context of the sage advice of Attorney Alessi?
No.
Do you have any memory issues?
No.
May I approach?
Yes.
Transcript, page 46. Since you've asked for the transcript, I have it for you. Dr. Russell, this is June 21st, 2024. I had asked you whether you expressed that you couldn't say with 100% certainty. You agreed with my answer, so there's no need to try to refresh your memory, but we're going to show it to you because you asked. We can take a look at line 16. Is that now consistent with the questions I asked you and the answer that you gave? That you couldn't be 100% certain.
That looks consistent.
Do you want more time with the transcript?
No.
Has anybody else talked to you about your testimony today overnight, Dr. Russell?
No.
When you testified last year, same transcript that we just looked at, do you remember when you gave your opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, you said that you thought the wounds were from an animal, possibly a large dog?
On that same date?
Yes,
May I see the
of
transcript?
course. Pursuant to Attorney Alessi's advice, let me approach.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm going to strike that, disregard that, Joyce.
May I approach?
Yes. What page are you on, Mr.?
23. June 21st, 2024, Doctor?
June 21st.
Page 23, line 14. Will you ask the question based on everything we've discussed today? Is it your opinion based on a reasonable degree of medical certainty these injuries were from an animal attack, possibly a large dog? And what did you say?
I said yes.
Thank you. Can I have that back?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. When you gave your opinion, not this year, last year, you agreed when you were assessing the wound, you used the word, or adopted the word possibly, didn't you?
Explain the context of it?
Sure.
That sentence?
Sure. Go right ahead.
No, you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Please
When
rephrase
you-
the question.
When you were asked about your opinion last year, not this year, last year, about whether to a reasonable degree of medical certainty the injuries were from an animal attack, possibly a large dog, you agreed with that characterization. A large animal, possibly a dog, didn't you?
Yes, an animal, possibly a large dog, last year, yes.
When you were on direct examination, there were tons of questions about this word methodology. Do you remember all those questions you were asked?
In June?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, okay, yes.
Yes. And when you were asked about methodology, was that an attempt to try to explain that you weren't just looking at an abrasion and guessing or eyeballing it? You were trying to suggest some type of scientific or medical process to give some type of certainty to your opinion?
That is the process I used.
When you talked about methodology yesterday, you talked about your experience in methodology with knife wounds and gunshot wounds, correct?
Yes?
But there was no methodology whatsoever regarding looking at a photograph and then identifying whether that is consistent with dog bites, is there?
I disagree.
When you describe methodology, you were asked by Attorney Alessi whether or not you've engaged in that methodology regarding dog bites. Did you agree that there is really no methodology regarding dog bites?
I disagree.
When you use the word methodology regarding dog bites, there isn't something specific you're looking at as if you were looking at a fingerprint. There are points of comparison. You don't do that, do you?
There are no specific points that are published by a organization, for instance, on how to determine something is a dog bite. However, I did use different methodologies, including what we talked about. the differential diagnosis, the pattern recognition. Pattern recognition, again, is so important in medicine. It's what pathologists use to diagnose tumors.
There
For
is no
instance.
standard, there is no recognized standard anywhere for methodology on how to identify a dog bite wound, is there?
There is no published standard from an organization that I am aware of.
So there is no source, there is no recognized community, there's no certification, there is no recognized method in identifying a superficial abrasion as a dog bite. Isn't that fair to say?
As in many conditions in the medical field, there are no certifications.
How about published standards? Is there any published standards whatsoever, any, regarding claims that a superficial abrasion is a dog bite? Are there any published standards by any organization?
No, but there would have to be thousands of published standards to identify the causes of the thousands of different types of abrasions. So no, there's no published standards.
No published standards. There is nowhere you can point to where the so-called methodology that you were telling the jury yesterday is a readily accepted standard in the dog bite community. You can't point to anywhere, can you?
There are peer-reviewed articles which list recommendations on how to determine something is from some wounds are from a dog. These are peer-reviewed articles written by esteemed physicians that have analyzed dog bites and have published these and have published an approach to identifying, particularly a forensic approach to identifying dog bites.
Let me ask you the question again, Dr. Russell.
You
Can
are watching
point
Live
to
Impact
one
News on
place where there is
WCNC
a
Plus. It
readily
is
accepted
9:30. I'm
standard
Jane
in the dog-
Monreal. We will get you back to the Karen Reed retrial, but we have a special guest in studio right now as we are talking about summer plans, summer weather. Look at this beautiful shot of Uptown. Chris Mulcahy saying it is the pick of the week
Pick of the
because it is
week.
sunny, so enjoy that. But we are also now the start of hurricane season, so that brings to mind weather. And with severe weather events, we are talking about utilities, those imposter scams that happen after a storm trucks on through. Not a problem right now, obviously, with sunny days, but it's something to think about. And these scammers can really get you if you are not thinking about your utilities, and they get really sophisticated. Juliana O'Rourke from the Better Business Bureau in the studio right now here this morning, helping us understand how these scams are now working and how folks can better protect themselves. Juliana, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in again.
Of course, I love starting my day with you guys.
We love having you here. So, what is the latest scam when it comes to utility imposters?
Yeah, so as you kind of mentioned, storms come through. We know storm chasers are always a big thing, and I think sometimes people just don't think about their utilities. And so we know utility scams are really big this time of year. Anytime it's super hot weather or really cold weather, people obviously need their air conditioning, they need their heating. So utility scams play a big role this time of year. Typically, what happens is you'll have a scammer impersonating somebody from your water company, gas company, electric company, and they'll either call you, they'll text you, maybe they'll even show up at your door, and it'll be high pressure. They'll say, if you don't pay within the next 45 minutes to an hour, you owe X amount of money you haven't paid, and if you don't pay, we're going to shut off the services. So unfortunately, that's pretty common. And so we always encourage people, anytime something like that happens, do a little bit more research. Don't feel super pressured to do anything right away. No company is going to give you 45 minutes to make a payment before they shut off your service.
Yeah, so what should one look for as far as red flags if someone knocks on the door like this?
Yeah, so obviously if it is, hey, super pressured, if they're only giving you a very small window of time. Also, most people have a lot of their bills set up for auto pay. I know a lot of people are kind of of aware of what's coming out of their account and what's not. So if you are very unsure, call the actual company. They could have also sent you a falsified bill, so maybe look that up online before you make the call just to make sure you're calling the right number. But certainly don't give them any information. One of the other red flags is that they'll probably ask you to pay with wire transfer or maybe a prepaid gift card or something along those lines. And so, every time I'm talking about scams with you all, we always encourage you to pay with a credit card. At least that way you have some type of protection and backing should something happen.
And certainly that should include your Venmo, your Cash App
the
type
peer-to-peer
of things
payments
too.
definitely
Peer-to-peer,
don't go
yeah.
that route, because once you send that money, it's gone.
I mean, when you have someone at the door high pressuring you to take care of your bills, or your utilities are going to be shut off in the moment, isn't it so difficult to, not feel overwhelmed and then start giving them information and worse, payment for something because you just feel like you're on the spot?
Yeah, it is a little overwhelming, and I know it can feel super pressured and put you on the spot. But most of the time, these companies are not going to be coming to your door and knocking on your door like that. So that's a big red flag in the first place. We also always recommend, if you don't know somebody, do not let them in your home. So another version of sort of these utility scams is somebody does come to your door, they're dressed in the right uniform, they say they need to do some repair work, or maybe the electric meter isn't working. They want to, have access to your home and come inside. And so that's a huge red flag. Don't let anybody in. In the event they do come in, they're probably going to try to take some of your things. Maybe if you have a bill or something left out, that allows them access to your personal information. So just be super cautious. I know it's almost, it seems silly to even have to say that. Don't let people in your home that you don't know.
Like,
But, when you get in a situation and you're not thinking and the person seems nice and legitimate, you want them to fix whatever they're saying is wrong, but just be super cautious whenever somebody comes to your door like that.
All right, I would think more elderly folks are susceptible to this, trying to get their bills paid, and get all the utilities taken care of. Something affecting young folks this summer with festivals and concerts picking up now. There are festival tickets or festival ticket scams. Reports of this going on, Juliana.
Yeah, so right now what we've been seeing is ads on social media are kind of where a lot of this is starting. So you get served an ad for a great event, concert, whatever it might be. You click on the link, you go to buy the tickets. Unfortunately, when you buy the tickets, you either basically get your money taken, you don't end up with any kind of legitimate ticket. It's not an actual legitimate event. Or if you look it up, people don't have very great things to say about the event. And then unfortunately, you've now lost your money.
Oh my goodness. And what is this talk about scammers even creating fake events?
Yeah, so sometimes they've created fake events and, they promote them as if they're a real event. They have photos, things look like they're going to be great, but come to find out the event doesn't actually exist. And so what we always recommend is anytime an event like that pops up, if you're interested in it, go outside of the social media platform to research, see what people are saying. Customer reviews across the board for companies, businesses, events, shows, things like that. People have a lot to say, especially when they've been burned. And so it helps to look things up like that. And also pay attention, if you do click on an ad on social media, where's that link taking you? Is it a secure site? Is it an HTTPS site? Is the URL, does it seem like it belongs to the event or show that you're looking to go to, or is it kind of a random mess of letters and numbers, and the website doesn't really match what the event is? So be on the lookout for all of those kinds of things.
Okay, and then they could use similar name. I think that's sort of similar to like a fake event, but just getting it real close that it might be questionable.
Yeah, so they'll try to name events very similar to other events going on because it causes a lot of confusion, especially if you're trying to buy the tickets quickly. If you feel, sometimes they'll use tactics like they're almost sold out, you need to buy your ticket now, the high pressure, right? And so people get excited, they want the tickets, they buy quickly, and then unfortunately they do the research a little bit too late, and then they've kind of lost their money.
Oh my gosh. So besides a financial impact, it is kind of an emotional impact as well.
Yeah, and also depending on, what kind of information that site asks for that you put in, now you've also lost some of your personal information that we, are constantly telling people, don't give that out.
Right. So how can people better protect themselves?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, if you see ads ads on social media, go ahead and, hey, check it out, but also do a little bit more research, not just that specific site. Make sure it's a secure site. Any more lookalike websites are so popular, but you can do reverse Google image searches to see where else are the images on this particular website showing up. Are there spelling errors? What's the grammar like? So all of those are telltale signs of bad lookalike websites, but also anytime you're paying for something like this, definitely use a credit card. Do not use peer-to-peer payments or prepaid debit cards or things like that.
Say if you're already down the process too late.
Yeah.
Is there any chance of recovery?
Yeah, so of course you want to report that to whatever credit card company you're using. Of course, report it to bbb.org and see, if your credit card company will help you get those funds back, if they're aware of that specific scam that's going on. But yeah, scammers are really good at what they do, so you just want to be very careful.
Yeah, they are getting so sophisticated. But how about these legitimate festival organizers? Are they doing anything proactively or trying to fight that thing too?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times people are out there, especially if you're throwing a big event and you know it's legitimate, you have a lot going on. You're also doing the research to see what other sites are out there that are lookalike, that are scammy, and I think a lot of companies are trying to get those types of things taken down so people don't get taken advantage of. So I think they're always on the lookout, because they don't want their customers being taken advantage of either.
Absolutely. Okay, Juliana O'Rourke from the Better Business Bureau helping us protect our assets, our money, and our pain in having to go through all the rigmarole trying to get said tickets and money. Anything else we need to know, Juliana?
If it's too good to be true, it probably is. So we say that whenever we come in here and we talk. So same goes for utility scams, same goes for these ticket and fake event scams. I mean, we all remember Firefest, right? So just be careful.
Oh, yeah. All right. We don't want to repeat that mistake. I mean, not that I made that mistake, but don't want to fall victim to something like that. All right, Juliana O'Rourke, again, from the Better Business Bureau, keeping us safe and proactive with our own values. We need to protect what we work so hard for. All right, thanks for coming into the Live Impact studio. As we bring you back out here now at 9:39, we'll take you back out to the Karen Reed retrial. This is a witness on the stand. They are showing some graphic images, just to let you know, of the victim's arm where that forensic expert was including her input on dog bites, on alleged dog bites. So we'll take you back out to this testimony live out of Dedham, Massachusetts, here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
No, there is a small possibility that they could be caused by nails.
When you first testified, you didn't qualify it as a small possibility, did you?
I perhaps wasn't asked.
Well, you answered. Remember when you were asked about it and you answered? You talked about that there was a pattern close to the shoulder with parallel marks. Do you remember?
Do I remember what?
Saying that this is a pattern close to the shoulder, right? That they're superficial. You agree with that still?
Yes.
And did you say they were consistent with teeth and nail marks?
Yes.
Okay. Nails on a dog oftentimes or most times are horseshoe shaped, aren't they?
They're generally conical shape.
You don't think that nails on a dog in your studies have a horseshoe shape?
I think it depends on the grooming of the dog and if the nails were cut recently. But in general, they come to a point. They're at the, at the end of the paw. They come to a point, and by the way, the paws can open and close. So the distance between the nails can vary depending on how that claw impacts the skin. So in many ways, they resemble the overall shape of canine teeth.
And so to get back to my question here, you're saying that this could have been caused by dog nails?
It's possible.
Do you know, or do you think that the teeth in a dog are different shapes and sizes?
Oh, yes. Depending on the tooth, there's different shapes and sizes. Absolutely.
When you testified the first time and you said that you thought it was teeth or nails, do you remember testifying a couple days later in front of a group of people and you again iterated that this could be teeth or claw marks? That was your testimony last year, teeth or claw marks, right?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the characterization of that prior proceeding.
So just prior proceeding, folks, that's all that we need.
Did you testify at that prior proceeding last summer that this could have been teeth or claw marks?
I would need to see the transcript.
May I approach?
Yes.
When you first testified on June 18th, doctor, you were asked questions trying to identify what you thought that wound was. And this is your June 18, 2024 testimony. On page 37, line 7, the questions begin, and you were asked what you thought they were. You can read any part you want, but line 7 might be a starting point.
Yes, I said that which are consistent with teeth marks. They also could be possibly consistent with nail marks.
Dr. Russell, I'm just going to ask you to keep your voice up, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. That was your first testimony last year, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you testify a couple days later and again repeated the same opinion, teeth or nail marks?
May I see it?
I'm asking if you remember.
Yes, I remember testifying.
Do you remember after you worked on your report and submitted your report,
Yes.
after your consultations, do you remember changing that opinion regarding number one? Do you remember changing that opinion?
No.
Do you remember changing from either teeth or possibly claw marks to being very specific, claiming that it was definitely teeth marks?
No.
Are there different types of teeth in a dog?
Yes.
Okay. The pointy teeth, the big ones, those are called canines,
Correct.
and the smaller ones are incisors.
Correct.
There are 6 incisors in a healthy dog on the top and bottom between the canines.
Correct.
Okay. Did you, when you testified subsequently to the original proceedings, did you change your opinion from teeth or claw marks to specifically teeth and even more specifically canines?
Do you have a transcript?
I do, but I'm going to ask you the question. Do you remember changing your testimony from teeth or nails to being very certain that it was canines, not just teeth, canines that caused that wound?
I became more certain, yes.
You had never said that the canines caused these wounds before you filed the report, ever, did you?
I may not have, that's true.
And so after you did your report, you shifted from teeth and nails to canines. Do you remember that?
I don't think it's a shift.
No one would ever refer to a dog's nails as canines, would they?
No, I don't think so.
That would be inaccurate, wouldn't it?
Yes,
That would be a mistaken use of the word.
I believe so.
When you testified December 2024 you didn't say nails could have caused this wound. You didn't say generally teeth. You said canines.
I believe that, and that's true. I believe that canine teeth caused that wound.
Did you have any new information about photographs that would help you change your opinion from teeth and nails to canines?
Well, I had been challenged. I had testified several times. I reviewed the case several times and challenged, and each time I reviewed the case, I became more certain that these were from canine teeth.
So
and actually, there's other marks there, but these are from teeth.
you say more certain. You had never said canines before, ever, until that recent hearing. Isn't that true?
I said teeth.
Canines.
It doesn't matter. I said teeth. Canines are some of the teeth.
Upper or lower canines?
Upper.
And if it's upper canines, you testified previously that the point of entry would be here at the bottom and the dog would pull this way. That's what you testified to. Yes?
No, I believe you misunderstood then. The point of entry is up there. The first initial point of contact is there, and the dog pulled this way, or Mr. O'Keefe pulled his arm the opposite way.
Dr. Russell, you don't recall that you said that the bigger circles are the point of entry, the dog pulled this way, and then I asked you, how could a dog pull this way when the arc is like this? The dog's mouth would have to be in backwards. Remember that conversation we had?
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you remember that conversation? You said that the point of entry would be the bigger circle pulled this way, and then I questioned, how could a dog's arc look like this if the teeth went that way?
No, I don't recall that at all.
Remember that conversation
No.
we had? Okay. And so, inevitably, when you look at this part of the wound alone, have you expressed an opinion that you're unable on its own to be able to tell whether this was caused by a dog?
Which part of the wound?
Taking any of these alone, let's start with number one. Haven't you expressed an opinion that taking this alone, you would not be able to say that is from a dog bite?
That is correct. In and of themselves, they're not that specific or characteristic. However, as a group, they are highly characteristic of a dog
So if
injury.
Mr. O'Keefe's arm only had this wound and nothing else, by virtue of what you're telling us, you would not be able to offer an opinion that this was consistent with a dog bite.
The very first wound
Yes.
up there, closest, I agree, yes.
In fact, you've testified about this very issue before. If this was the only wound on Mr. O'Keefe, number two, you would not be able to say that the injury is consistent with a dog bite.
Correct.
I'm going to go through all of these just so we're clear. Same thing with number three. You've provided opinions on this before. If you look at this wound alone, in isolation, you would not be able to say that it came from a dog bite.
Correct.
Four, pardon me, yep, four, same. Looking at the wound alone, you would not be able to say it came from a dog bite.
Correct.
Same for five and same for six.
Correct.
Now, when you testified before your recent testimony, you never had that qualification. When you came into court, you were saying that when you looked at these wounds individually, you were saying that you could identify it as a dog bite.
I disagree with that characterization.
Number two, what caused this wound, Dr. Russell?
Number two, I believe that was dog bite or scratch, but mostly I believe dog bite. And because there's a punctate, little tiny, pinpoint almost, lesion there and there, which could represent bottom teeth.
Okay, so you're using words like could, and we're talking about a reasonable degree of medical certainty. So when you look at this wound here, you said that you are sure or not sure what caused this wound.
I'm saying that individually, that wound, that's correct. I'm not sure individually what that wound was caused by. However, again, as I mentioned earlier, the overall pattern of wounds is what I am convinced of.
I want to go through each of these wounds separately so we understand what you actually recognize with your methodology and what you don't. So looking at wound number 2, based on whatever methodology you've been using, are there any signs, indicators, objective criteria you can look at and tell us this is or is not a dog bite based on this methodology you have?
There are some characteristics that are suggestive of a dog bite or dog claw, including the fact that there are parallel lesions, and many of these, overall, by the way, parallel lesions are in the same general direction. So there are parallel lesions, and here they're associated with some punctate or point-like other abrasions right here. So they're consistent with being inflicted by a dog.
I appreciate you using some medical terms to describe this, but my question is more pointed. Is there anything about your methodology, something that stands out about these wounds, that you can say to a reasonable degree of medical certainty that these are consistent with a dog either biting or scratching?
These wounds all by themselves, not to a medical degree of certainty, no.
You said on this first wound, you thought this was from the canines. Those are the big upper teeth is what you're claiming, right?
Yes.
And you're saying today, anyways, starts here at the bottom and goes up. Is that
No.
your position today?
That's not what I said. I said the
Okay.
exact opposite.
So it starts here and comes down.
Correct.
Okay. And these, they're linear, just like these are linear, aren't they?
Yes.
But you have a problem with these because if these are the canines, you see the spacing there?
Uh-huh.
This is nowhere close, is it?
I didn't say that these were caused by canines. And spacing also, there's reasons why the spacing could be different.
Well, we can talk about that in a second. Are you suggesting that these exact, well, not exact, these two linear abrasions, just like 1 and 2, are you suggesting the canines caused these?
I don't know what caused those, which teeth caused those, or which nails caused those.
When you testified last year on June 18th, you said that this was either teeth or claws. Can you give us any development of your opinions, whether or not you think that is teeth or claws?
Excuse me? No, well, I couldn't hear because of the fan.
When you testified on June 18th, you said wound number 2, the top 2 linear abrasions, you believe were either teeth or claws. You share with us now you have improved your study and have new opinions. Do you have a clearer opinion whether this is teeth or claws?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained, ask it differently, Mr.
Do you have an opinion whether this is teeth or claws or not something totally different than a dog?
I believe they are teeth or claws caused.
When you testified at trial and in that hearing that they were teeth or claws, you changed that opinion as well at the most recent hearings, didn't you?
No, I'm going to object to the word that was used and has been done before.
Mr. Brennan, word it differently.
Sorry?
Word it differently.
Okay. Did you testify at a more recent hearing that teeth made these, not teeth or claws, but teeth?
I may have, and I would like to see that.
May I
Can
approach?
you just hold 1 second? Could you please turn the fan off, Paul? Jerry, is it okay if we turn the fan off so we can hear better?
May I approach?
Yes.
From your December hearing, page 100, line 5, when you were asked about that second wound in December, and I asked whether you changed your opinion from teeth or claws to just teeth, weren't you asked specifically about that on page 100, line 5?
Yes. But may I read it?
Sure, I'll read it with you.
Okay. I said,
I'm not sure exactly what teeth made these. They could, one of them could, one set of these could be canine, one part of this, and then adjacent incisor tooth. But I'm not sure on the second set, so this is the set just above the elbow.
yeah, I think the first part of that paragraph is talking about the first set
Yes.
up there close to the shoulder, and then the sentence, but I'm not sure on the second set, so this is the set that's just above the elbow. I said I'm not sure.
And then, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you done?
Oh. Yeah, actually, I did make another comment. What is it? However, what is interesting and certain is that there's an upper set and a lower set. So this mark was an upper tooth. This is a lower tooth. What I was referring to is this mark here and that mark, and then this mark here and this mark here. So it appears that this is from upper and these are from lower. That's what I was referring to.
And so when you first described this wound as teeth or claws, at the most recent hearing, you had a certain opinion that this was teeth, didn't you?
Yes, I was leaning towards teeth. Correct.
Well, it didn't seem like you were leaning. You said these were from the upper teeth.
Yes.
You said it matter-of-factly, not with any qualification. Your claim at the last hearing is this was from teeth.
That's what I believed.
And today you're saying you don't know if these were teeth or claws.
Not with 100% certainty.
You didn't qualify 100% certainty. You were asked your opinion, Dr. Russell. You
Yes.
were asked, what do you think? And you didn't say without 100% certainty. Your claim, the first time you testified, teeth or claws. Recently, you said teeth, and now you're saying you're not sure.
No, I'm saying I believe that those marks are from teeth, but I'm not 100% certain.
Suffice to say, looking at wound 2 alone, you cannot say this was caused by a dog.
In and of itself, no.
What tooth do you think caused this wound?
I don't know.
Do you think this in any way could be caused by dog teeth if you're claiming that this is dog teeth?
Excuse me?
Do you think there's any way these two could be caused by dog teeth if you're saying that these two were caused by dog teeth?
Yes, it could be, but I don't know which teeth. And I don't know the extent of the bite, how much impact there was, how much pressure, how much contact there was between the teeth and the skin.
The canines are the longer teeth in a dog's mouth, aren't they?
They are.
And when a dog bites, it's very common for the canines to puncture, isn't it?
It's common if there's enough force, and it's common that you might have two canines if the strike is perpendicular to the skin. But if you have a tangential strike, a partial strike where only part of the teeth impact, you'll get different configurations.
Look at the spacing, Dr. Russell.
Did you say strike or strike?
Strike with a K.
Look at the spacing, Dr. Russell. A dog causing these wounds, the canines are not going to have such a dramatic distance between them because dog canines don't move, do they?
They don't, and I'm not claiming that these two parallel stripes in this case, or abrasions here, I'm not claiming that those two were caused by canines.
You think a dog is going to leave a wound with linear abrasions using its incisors as opposed to its canines? Is that your opinion?
It's possible if that's the only part of the mouth or the jaw that actually touched the skin, if it didn't go back as far as the canines.
Did you ever look at the underside of Mr. O'Keefe's arm?
I
The
did.
posterior side?
Excuse me, pictures, yes.
Yeah. And when you looked at the photographs of the posterior side of Mr. O'Keefe's arm, did you find anything conspicuously absent from underneath his arm?
Well, first of all, let me clarify. Part of this is the posterior aspect of the arm. So are you asking me, did I look at the underside of the arm, the fleshy part
That's
of the
exactly
arm?
what I'm asking. It's a question I've asked before. When you look at the other side of Mr. O'Keefe's arm, did you notice anything conspicuously absent?
Yes, there's an absence of wounds.
When a dog bites, I don't care if it's a law enforcement dog or a domestic dog, you know it's like a lever, a dog's mouth, isn't it?
It can be if both jaws strike the skin. However, there are many times when only the upper jaw strikes the skin.
The lower jaw is a lever, locks, and that's part of the clamping and pulling process of a dog, whether it's a law enforcement dog or a domestic dog. You know that, don't you?
I know that they are attached.
Your claim is that there's many, many different dog bites on Mr. O'Keefe's arm. Are you suggesting, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that these are a number of different dog strikes, and coincidentally, every single one of them lacks any wound to the underside of his arm?
Yes.
Your claim is that a dog penetrated the sweater on the top, but the lower jaw did not leave any wounds?
I'm claiming that that's not what I'm claiming. No. As I mentioned earlier, these could be from lower jaw. Those right there.
You're saying could be.
Could be.
That's speculation. We're asking you for your medical opinions. Your medical opinions. Do you have any evidence that the dog's lower jaw, you said maybe upper, maybe, that the lower jaw, even just once in this whole event, penetrated Mr. O'Keefe's skin?
No, nothing penetrated the skin. There was no actual penetration of the skin. These are abrasions. But yes, I believe that these small marks right here, punctate marks, may be the result of lower jaw impact.
Rather than deal in speculation and maybes, can you tell us to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether or not this was caused by a tooth?
Yes, Your Honor.
We're going to strike the first part. Why don't you ask the other part?
Can you tell us to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether this superficial abrasion, could you put that back up, please, was caused by a dog?
In and of itself, that part only, no.
Can you tell us anywhere on Mr. O'Keefe's arm to a reasonable degree of medical certainty where the lower jaw impacted Mr. O'Keefe to leave even a scratch?
Not with a reasonable degree of medical certainty on individual wounds.
And not just individual wounds, I'm talking specifically the lower jaw. Can you point to one wound, one abrasion on that arm where you can say to a reasonable degree of medical certainty the lower jaw caused any of those abrasions?
I believe there are several areas where there's impact from the lower jaw. However, I cannot say with reasonable degree of medical certainty that part only.
Let's look at number 3 to move along. When you first talked about these wounds, again, is it fair to say that you described that it could have either been teeth or claw?
I'd have to see it.
Okay, I'll bring it to you. You don't remember that testimony?
I remember, again, I've been here many times, so I want to be
Well, do you have the
specific.
opinion today, and I'm getting the transcript for you, Dr. Russell.
Thank you.
Do you have the opinion today that that those were either teeth or claws?
Yes.
What's your opinion today?
Well, I think that most likely they are from teeth marks.
Well, rather than most likely, we deal with reasonable degree of medical certainty. To a reasonable degree of medical certainty, can you give us an opinion regarding the cause of those marks?
Objection, Your Honor.
So I'll strike the comment.
Can you tell us to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether these wounds were caused by teeth or claws?
Individually, no.
Did you ever change your mind about the source of these abrasions?
Can you be more specific?
Did you ever claim that any of these abrasions were from upper or lower teeth?
I don't recall changing my mind.
You don't recall if you've ever said that? Let's separate these bottom wounds. Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether these were caused by teeth or claws?
I have an opinion.
To a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
No.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether these were caused by either a dog teeth or dog claws?
I have an opinion.
To a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Individually, no.
The one near the wrist, you had testified yesterday, there's lines in what you believe to be an arc, correct?
Yes, they have a general overall appearance of an arc.
If there's an arc and there's two linear abrasions on the outside borders, wouldn't these necessarily have to be the outside borders from canine teeth?
Not necessarily.
They're longer than the middle ones, aren't they?
The abrasions are, but doesn't mean the teeth are.
If this was an arc, like you claimed, you think different teeth other than the canines could have caused the outside scratches?
It's possible.
And you do note the distance between the top and bottom of those wounds compared to the distance in number 2 and the distance in number 1.
I see the difference, yes.
And you have to concede, Dr. Russell, that the same set of teeth, the same canines, could not reasonably have caused this wound, and this wound, given the distance between the inside and outside.
First of all, I'm not certain that these are all canines, as I mentioned earlier. Secondly, you have to take into account that skin is elastic. It bends. It depresses. So you could have two prongs, for instance, of a pitchfork, for instance, just as an example, impact the skin in different places, and the measurement between the two can be slightly different depending on the elasticity of the skin and the underlying structures.
This is not a slight difference, Dr. Russell, is it?
Again,
Objection, Your Honor.
So there was a question of that, so I'm going to let that in.
Again, Dr. Russell, the distance here, it's not insignificant, is it?
Mr. Brennan, I already mentioned that I did not think that these were caused by two canine teeth.
And these, the distance between these two, have you measured them?
I approximated them, yes.
What
And
did you come up with?
visually, and I can see that there's a difference.
What was your measurement for this one?
I think about 4 centimeters, and this was a little bit more.
Did you note that in the report? Did you
No, I
actually
did not.
measure them, did you actually take out a ruler, measure them, and document them as you studied these wounds? Did you go through that process during your methodology?
No, because this is an image, and there's no scale in this image as to how far away different points are. So my own measurement would not be accurate because there's no scale in the picture.
Why did you go through the process of measuring them if you're now saying that it's inaccurate after I asked you if you memorialized it? Why would you even do it if you're now saying it was inaccurate?
It was an approximate measurement in my mind.
In your mind?
Yeah.
Okay, but you never put it on a piece of paper or report, notes?
That's correct.
Why would you even go through the process if you're looking at it and your explanation is, it's only a photo, I wouldn't be able to tell? Why would you even try to?
I think probably everybody in this room has already done the same thing.
And if anybody in this room did the same thing, it would be quite obvious, Doctor, that the gaps between 1, 2, and 5 are dramatically different from each other, aren't they?
They are. However, I'm not saying the same exact teeth caused those marks.
When you testified yesterday, you used the term differential diagnosis. I want to ask you a lot of questions about differential diagnosis. Do you remember using that term?
Yes.
And differential diagnosis was really just a way for you to try to get your opinion to the jury that these injuries were not consistent with the car accident. That's what a fancy way of doing it is, right?
No, it was a method I used.
Differential diagnosis, you're claiming that you can say this is not from a car accident or a car collision. That's what you're trying to say, aren't you?
That was the result of my differential diagnosis and my pattern recognition
So
methodologies.
if you're going to exclude a cause of the injury, in this case, a collision, you have to know a little bit about collisions, don't you?
Yes, I don't know how to answer that.
Well, try.
Can you be more specific?
If you're going to say that these superficial abrasions could not have been caused by a car collision, you kind of have to understand a little bit about the mechanics of a car collision, don't you?
Actually, I disagree. However, I've treated thousands of victims of motor vehicle accidents and have seen the wound patterns that they come into the emergency room with, and that forms a basis for me.
Do you really think?
I'm sorry, please.
Did you finish that answer, Doctor?
No.
Did I cut you off?
I believe so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, and the thousands of victims of motor vehicle accidents, I've looked at their wounds, I've treated their wounds, cleaned their wounds, touched their wounds, and that is what I use as a basis, part of my basis to determine that these were not caused or not consistent with a motor vehicle accident.
When you first gave that opinion that it wasn't consistent with the motor vehicle accident, it's fair to say you didn't have a lot of information at that time when you first came in and said that, correct?
Specific to this case?
Yes. Yes.
I didn't have a lot of information, that's correct.
Okay. And so in order to rule out a collision causing these wounds, let me ask you, are you an accident reconstruction expert?
Reconstruction? No.
Did you ever go to any academy for training to receive any type of degree or certificates in car collisions?
Actually, I did receive a certificate in hit and run accident investigation from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council when I was a police officer.
Do you agree that what training you did have was rudimentary?
It probably was, yes.
Well, not probably. You've used that word before. Wouldn't you say that any training you have had has been rudimentary?
In terms of
Accident-
accident
Yes.
investigation, yes.
Have you ever testified as an expert anywhere in accident reconstruction?
No.
Do you know what ACTAR is?
ACTAR?
Yes.
No.
It's a certification group for collision specialists, accident reconstructionists. Is it fair to say that you're not ACTAR qualified?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Are you ACTAR qualified?
No, and I don't know any physicians that are.
Have you ever gone to a scene of a car collision and done an investigation and written a report and reached a conclusion about the cause of the car collision and the injuries that were related to that car collision?
No, that's outside my scope.
It's beyond your expertise.
Beyond the expertise of a physician, yes.
Right. Yet, yesterday, you offered the jury your opinion that these wounds were not consistent with a car collision. Did you offer that opinion yesterday?
Wounds are in my area of expertise. So yes, I am very comfortable talking about wounds from a variety of sources, including motor vehicle accidents.
I'm sorry, I didn't want the siren to interrupt you.
Okay. Yeah, wounds are definitely within my area of expertise.
When you considered your opinion to this jury that this was not caused by a car collision, do you know what type of vehicle is in question?
Yes.
Have you ever studied the vehicle to look at the make, model, the height of different things like the bumper, perhaps the taillight? Have you ever studied that in this case?
I'm aware of some of those factors,
Have
yes.
you studied that before you gave this opinion? Yes. Did you go and actually look at the photos, do any measurements before you came up with this opinion?
Not before I came up with the opinion, no.
Did you ever look at the damage to the rear taillight of the defendant's vehicle and see if it was in similar or the same height of Mr. O'Keefe if he was standing up? Did you ever do that?
I have looked at photographs.
And when you looked at the photos, did you see that a 6'1" man like Mr. O'Keefe, if he stood, his elbow would be the exact height of Miss Reed's broken taillight? Did you notice that?
I noticed that there was a similar, that the height would be similar. The height of the elbow and the taillight, yes.
Did you look at photographs of Miss Reed's broken taillight and see if where the break was corresponded closely or directly to the same height as Mr. O'Keefe's elbow and forearm?
I did.
And did you see that it matched up height-wise perfectly?
Close, yes.
We're going to break away right now from live coverage of the Karen Reed retrial right outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and bring you a special guest today because here at 10:20 in the Live Impact studio and around the country, it is the Army's 250th birthday coming up. They've got a massive festival planned for the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And of course, here in the Charlotte area, we have strong military presence, many families with ties to the Army service. So, of course, this celebration is close to home. Bringing in to the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus right now on this stream is from the Army, Brigadier General Antoinette Gant, Chief of the Army Enterprise Marketing Office. That was a mouthful for me, General. But welcome to the morning. Thank you. And what does this milestone mean to you?
Well, good morning, Jane, and thank you so much for helping us to celebrate our 250th birthday celebration. This is an opportunity for us to honor the men and women who actually serve and committed to fighting the nation's wars, but more importantly, to shaping the military and the nation. So what a great opportunity for us to be on the National Mall and engage with the American public for this awesome celebration.
A lot of families are going to plan a summer trip anyway through the nation's capital. What can families and maybe young adults look forward to there on the National Mall in June?
Yeah, there's so many things that are going to happen on the 14th, but just to speak about a few, the opportunity to be able to speak to an Army soldier, ask them questions about their career and what it's like to actually serve in the Army. We've got the Golden Knights, which is the Army's demonstration and competition parachute team. They compete all over the world. They will be on hand, as well as get up and close and personal with equipment and exhibits. They have interactive displays, and what I call truly experience the Army tradition with a re-enlistment ceremony of career soldiers who are re-enlisting or committing their oath to office to be able to come and be a part of the Army, as well as live entertainment. We've got the U.S. Army Downrange Band that's going to actually be playing. And so this is a great opportunity to really learn about more than 250 careers that the Army has to offer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about some of these recruiting scenarios that will be available for some young adults that might be interested to test their skills. Talk us through some of the process and see if people are cut out for Army life. What would that look like?
Well, in the Army, we talk about the fact that it is truly about your purpose, your passion, community, and connection. These are all the things of which Army life is all about and brings to the attention of those that are interested in serving. But career development, hands-on training of what you will be doing, not just while you're in the Army, but could potentially do as you transition to a civilian as well. Benefits, competitive salary, health benefits, paid parental leave, leave in general, 30 days, coming in straight with 30 days of leave, and service, whether it's full-time or part-time. What we've learned is most people don't understand or know about the various opportunities and ways of which you can serve, and this is a great opportunity to showcase that.
And for parents who might have some young adults considering a career in the Army, what do you tell them?
Actually be all that you can be. So it's not just a slogan, it's a true testament of who we are as an Army and how we actually resonate and can resonate with the American public, whether it be parents, coaches, as well as those who have the opportunity to be able to serve.
General, tell us about your own journey entering the Army and what it's like for you today.
You know, I always start my story by saying that I didn't choose the Army, but the Army chose me, but it has been an absolutely amazing career. You know, I am an Army ROTC scholarship recipient who actually came into the Army after college as an engineer. So I studied engineering in college and was able to actually utilize my skills as an engineer, as an engineer officer. I've actually deployed abroad, as well as done many stateside experiences where it has allowed me to actually utilize my engineering experience. And now as the Chief Marketing Officer, I get to really talk to the American public and bring awareness to what it really means to be a part of Army service.
For those who can't make it out to the National Mall there on the 14th, how can people learn more about opportunities and connect maybe with some local recruiters here in Charlotte?
Absolutely. We actually tell everyone to go to our goarmy.com website. There's a career management tool there that allows you to actually look at the various careers that are available to you, and absolutely will connect you with a recruiter. So thank you so much for having us and helping us celebrate the 250th Army birthday.
Oh, pleasure having you here, and happy early birthday to the U.S. Army. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good conversation there. We'll put that information on our website as well as we bring you back out here in the Live Impact studio at 10:25. We bring you the news, the feeds as they come into the newsroom, often unedited and raw, as we are watching out of the Dedham, Massachusetts Karen Reed retrial. It looks like they are in a bit of a recess right now, so I'm going to turn things over to Washington, back to D.C., this time with the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee hearing. This is the Department of Education, and we do understand that Secretary Linda McMahon, as you see right here, is a witness. Let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News.
Which an estimated $23 million would provide evidence-based professional learning for educators and help address gaps in access to effective teachers in Wisconsin. Are you going to allocate all of the funding Congress appropriated for students and schools in Wisconsin and across the country this year?
Well, Senator Baldwin, thank you very much for that question. And I understand your concerns. What we have done in putting forward our operating plan, the first operating plan to show where we were making allocations, and then followed up with the second operating plan.
This isn't a nuanced question. Congress passed a law appropriating this funding. You said in your confirmation hearing that you would spend funding Congress appropriated. If the answer isn't simply yes, based on all of the evidence before us, that leads me to believe that you are planning to withhold funding and shortchange schools, students, and families across America.
Well, we're going to continue to look at the allocations, and we'd like to work with you as we continue to evaluate those programs.
We passed a continuing resolution that appropriated funding, and you said earlier that you were going to spend it as appropriated as is signed into law. So I'm going to move on. Secretary McMahon, when we met before your confirmation hearing, you told me that our students' mental health was a priority for you. Yet you recently decided to discontinue mental health grants that Congress authorized and funded on a bipartisan basis because you determined, quote, they were not in the best interest of the federal government, close quote, which makes me wonder what changed since our conversation. Your operating plan for fiscal year 2025 describes this funding as unallocated this year. Your budget request for next year proposes eliminating this funding. Secretary McMahon, do you believe increasing access to mental health supports for students is not in the best interests of the federal government?
We're not looking to eliminate this funding. We are simply continuing the funding, but will allow the states to rebid on the competitive grant basis, and we're evaluating those programs across states. I think that a governor in a state or the local superintendent or the health care professionals that are working in that state have the best opportunity in looking at what is happening in their areas to make those requests for those grants. And so that's what we're looking at.
Secretary McMahon, the grant that you discontinued for the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction was being used to expand access to mental health care for students. We're talking about more counselors and mental health professionals in schools. Why did you cut off funding for this grant and take away this help for Wisconsin students in schools?
Well, because I think we have to look at it across the board, Senator, and the goal really is to make sure that the money is being spent in the best places.
What about training new school psychologists, like what you chose to discontinue at Alverno College in Wisconsin? Do you think that's also not in the best interest of the federal government?
I believe there are a lot of programs that are in the best interest of the government, but the states and the local areas, I think, are the best place where we need to concentrate, for these particular programs.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I'm going to add my voice of concern with Senator Collins, and you and I have talked about this on the zeroing out, the elimination of the TRIO and Gear Up programs. You mentioned that I actually did work in one of these programs many years ago. But my state and many of our states, but mine in particular, I think, has a lot of first-time college goers, a lot of students that don't have the aspirational goals either within their family, or they're not looking at how they can achieve education or a certificate or whatever, and that's where I think these programs have been particularly useful. So I would encourage that we look at this again, and we certainly will as a committee, because all of us have this issue within our states in terms of that first-time college goer or student that really needs the extra push, the camaraderie, the community that a lot of these, I've gone to their graduations and been their speaker, and it's really quite delightful to see how far they've come in a short period of time. So I'm going to move on from that question. I want to ask on anti-Semitism. I am the morning before our education, last year, there were protesters at Columbia University. I asked the then secretary, how many people from the Office of Civil Rights have you had actually on the campus to see what's occurring there, to see what kind of violation of civil rights might be occurring on the Columbia University campus. And apparently there was nobody there from the Office of Civil Rights. Your budget proposes to decrease the Office of Civil Rights. How are you, this is not a problem that's going away on our college campuses. We see it now we've got a little bit of a break, it's the summer. How are you going to make sure that the department is taking to ensure that all students, and in this particular case, Jewish students, are able to learn in an environment free from intimidation?
Well, thank you very much. Senator Capito, I think it is pretty evident from the actions that we have taken relative to Columbia and looking into Harvard as well, and fulfilling the promise that President Trump made when he was campaigning that he would not tolerate anti-Semitism on our campuses or discrimination of any kind. So I have personally met with first Katrina Armstrong, who was the president of Columbia when the first issue was addressed, and now with the second, Claire Shipman, who is there now. We've talked about the issues on Columbia's campuses, and we have worked with them, I believe, in how we can solve some of these issues. They have to set their policies and their priorities, and they have to enforce them. They can't allow encampments on campuses. They can't allow students to come on dressed with masks so that you can't identify these students. I think they have to also vet the students who are coming in better to see what kind of backgrounds that they have. Even professors who come on campuses, or are they teaching ideology or more in subjects? So I personally have done this in conversations with these presidents, with other presidents of universities, to understand what their policies are. Our Office of Civil Rights has opened many cases looking at anti-Semitism, and we are actively enforcing that, as well as we have defunded some of Columbia's programs, $400 million there, and about $2.2 billion with Harvard. We're saying we mean business. These programs and policies have to have teeth. They have to be enforced. No student should have to go on campus and be afraid to go to class.
All right, well, I agree with the substance of what you're saying. My concern is by cutting so much out of that particular, you're one person, you need the support and the backup of that office to be able to investigate these cases. So I'll leave it at that. Let's talk about literacy, because I mentioned it in my opening statement. These test scores are very troubling, I think, and you want to try to figure out how do we attribute to this? It's not like there's not great teachers everywhere all around this country trying to figure out how to get their students' achievement moving up in the right direction. I will say this, my state of West Virginia, the state legislature, in recognizing this, did allocate additional funds for reading teachers in the very early, grades 1 through 3 to try to move our scores up, because we have traditionally lower scores. We did actually that did make a difference. Having that extra teacher in the classroom, we can pull a child aside, give them that one-on-one attention, really does make a difference. How is the budget that you've put together, is the answer to push it down to the states so that they can make the
you're one person.
differences?
You need the
with,
support
our
and the
literacy
backup
of that office to be able to investigate these cases. So I'll leave it at that. Let's talk about literacy, because I mentioned it in my opening statement. These test scores are very troubling, I think, and you want to try to figure out how do we attribute to this? It's not like there's not great teachers everywhere all around this country trying to figure out how to get their students' achievement moving up in the right direction. I will say this, my state of West Virginia, the state legislature, in recognizing this, did allocate additional funds for reading teachers in the very early, grades 1 through 3 to try to move our scores up, because we have traditionally lower scores. We did actually that did make a difference. Having that extra teacher in the classroom, we can pull a child aside, give them that one-on-one attention, really does make a difference. How is the budget that you've put together, is the answer to push it down to the states so that they can make those differences with our literacy and our math scores that we're falling behind? I think it's a chief concern.
Well, certainly, I think just what you were talking about, at your state level, you put an extra teacher in the classroom because you recognize the need there. I think that will make an incredible difference. There have been a lot of programs that have been tried to make sure that we could help students to read, and they've not worked. But what we are seeing in states that are doing programs now that are returning to the science of reading. We saw it in Louisiana in the PASNAPE scores. We have seen it in Mississippi. We've seen it in Iowa. The children that are learning to read and can read by the end of 3rd grade are those that have the greatest opportunity for success. Up until 3rd grade, we read to learn, and after that, we learn. We learn to read up through 3rd grade, and then we read to learn after that.
Right. Thank you. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and welcome, Madam Secretary. Since you're the Secretary of Education, I think it's maybe appropriate that we start questioning with a pop quiz. Are you ready?
I never have liked pop quizzes.
I never have either, but I'm going to give you the answers ahead of time. The answers are 8 and 30. 8 and 30. Remember those two numbers. What percentage of high school students in America attend for-profit colleges and universities?
8%.
8%, perfect. What percentage of student loan defaults in America come from students in for-profit colleges and universities?
Must be 30.
It is. Great. You just aced the test. But the problem is that the difficulty these students face becomes a lifetime problem. Imagine, if you will, first-generation college student trying to pick a place to go to school, inundated in high school with glossy brochures for for-profit colleges and universities which promise the sun, the moon, and the stars. The student goes and learns that there are Pell Grants available through for-profit colleges and universities. They hear the promises that if they just attend this school and graduate, there's going to be a good paying job at the end of the rainbow. And it turns out it's all phony. Over and over again, these students are being deluded and deceived. There's much more scam than there is scholarship. There's more hype than there is higher education. So most of them, or at least 30% of them, end up with loans they can't pay back. They never see that job that was promised to them. But they've got one last place to turn to try to get their lives back on track. I've met a lot of these students. Have you met any of them?
I have.
I have seen their stories and heard their stories from them, living in their parents' basement because of student loan debt and no college diploma, or a worthless one from some for-profit colleges and universities. You have a department within the Department of Education for borrower defense. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell me what you understand the borrower defense law to promise?
Well, first of all, I'd like to address how we started the conversation, not the percentages. But this is an issue, sir, that is, I think you well know, is not just relative to for-profit universities. We have many of our universities today that are promising degrees and jobs which are not being fulfilled, even those from very prestigious and elite universities. The cost of college today is so incredibly high that we have many students who are graduating thinking that they were going to have a job, that they'd be able to repay their loan. But the cost of those loans are so high that even if they get that job, it may not, over the course of their lifetime, would be able to repay that loan. So one of the things that we have proposed, and looking at our FAFSA application forms, is providing information even on FAFSA that would indicate to a student who is applying for a student loan, hey, take a look at this. This is the college you're going to. This is the job that you want, and this is about how much money this job can pay. And is this college the right place for you? Are these courses the right place for you to take? So let's give up front a little more information so that they actually have an understanding of what their opportunity in the marketplace can be.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I want to reclaim my time since it's very limited. The point that I'm making is there is one brand of college and university that is particularly egregious when it comes to deceiving these students. It's for-profit colleges and universities. 8% of high school grads, 30% of student loan defaults in that category alone. It stands out from all the rest. The point I'm getting to is you're hollowing out the borrower defense agency within your own department. This is supposed to be the rescue for these students to finally get back on track and maybe go to a good school one way or the other. Why would you hollow out the resources there and the people that are enforcing the borrower defense rule when we have these terrible numbers of exploitation of students?
Well, and my point is that we shouldn't just focus on those schools. I do know that I totally agree with you. There are some scam universities out there.
Well, why would you hollow out the people who are supposed to enforce it?
Because I think we're putting other measures in place. But the scam...
Give me an idea what you're putting in place that's better than the borrower defense rule.
Well, we just talked a little bit about FAFSA. It's the education up front so that...
I'm talking about the victims, the ones who are already victims. They're in debt by tens of thousands of dollars. They're living in their parents' basement. They have no place to turn. And you're telling me the FAFSA form application is going to help them? How can it help them?
And that's not in place yet, but I think that's going to be very, very helpful. Here's the other thing. Where are our guidance counselors in high schools? Who are they talking to?
I think we're finding
I think that they need to be totally informed, and I think they need to look at the cost of education.
You're cutting the number of counselors in these schools at the same time.
Well, the counselors that are doing their jobs can provide information to these students.
There aren't enough of them. That's the point I'm making, and the situation is terrible for these students. First-generation students who are being exploited by these schools, they need your protection. They need our protection. They deserve it. They're doing the right thing. And unfortunately, you're reducing the number of people to enforce the law. I yield, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy.
We're going to bring you out live now to Greensboro. This is a press conference held by a grassroots nonprofit, Siembra NC for North Carolina. There are a number of ministers there, as well as the pregnant fiancé of a Greensboro man who was detained yesterday at a laundromat in Greensboro by ICE. Let's listen in here live on Live Impact News.
Her child. More and more we are seeing stories like theirs, both of hardworking community members being detained and of U.S. citizens being profiled by federal agents without warrants. This arrest and many others target people who are following the sentencing of local judges in the criminal legal system. They undermine due process, the rule of law, and trust in our overall court system. They punish and make it harder for people who lack legal status to attend their court dates and probation appointments. And let's be clear, these detentions do not keep us safe. So far this year, Siembra has supported over 40 families facing detentions, including many in the Triad. They have been detained during traffic stops, court appearances, and even while checking in with USCIS and other federal agencies because they are in a legal process to adjust status. We at Siembra are asking our congressmen and 2 senators for something very simple and very humane. Call for Marlon to be released immediately so that he can finish out his classes, return to work, and be present for his daughter's birth. We also want our local elected officials to make it a priority that the staff in our municipalities, counties, and cities are trained on helping defend their Fourth Amendment rights. And lastly, we have to be the ones that show up and take care of each other during this time. We are asking people in the community to pledge to volunteer to help monitor our local courthouses and ensure that due process, our Fourth Amendment rights, and the rights of people attempting to follow the recommendations of our criminal legal system are protected. To get involved, you can contact our hotline at 336-543-0353. And to donate and support families that are being impacted every day by detentions, like Jasmine's, you can donate at tiny.cc/WeGotUsFund. This is not the time to look away. This is the time when we show up as a community to continue taking care of each other.
All right, obviously that picture a little sticky from Greensboro, but it is a number of folks, about 10 to 12 people speaking on the detainment by ICE agents in front of the Guilford County Courthouse. It looks like that picture is coming back in here live. Let's go back to it on Live Impact News.
On other human beings. The hell of detention, of family separation, of chaining pregnant women, violating people.
We're going to stick with this. Just hang with us, folks. At 10:45, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We might have to move this to another channel, but in the meantime, this again is a situation out of Greensboro, North Carolina, where a man was detained yesterday at a laundromat in Greensboro, which is only 2-ish hours away from the Charlotte area. And now it looks like that nonprofit group, Siembra NC, as well as some local ministers are speaking on behalf, trying to get that man who is now in custody back to freedom.
And unelected billionaires are ruining the government. How to love our neighbors when things seem really scary. We are ready, and we are hopeful, and we invite you all to join us in whatever way you can. Thank you.
Good morning, Reverend C.J. Brinson, faith leader at Umoja Church here in Greensboro. Happy to be here to stand with Siembra and other members of the community. I'll just say this, what seems to be happening here in America. There seems to be demonic forces plaguing our criminal justice and legal system, with law enforcement agents being an extension of that, terrorizing black and brown communities. So I'm standing here in solidarity as a black pastor with my community members within our brown community to say that what is happening here in our community is not a representation of Christianity. All over the country, there is a misuse of Christianity and other faiths happening to delegitimize human beings and their rights to exist peacefully in our community. And we don't want that to be a representation of our faith. There are over 22 scriptures throughout the biblical context that affirms the rights of immigrants, as well as us as Christians being hospitable to our immigrant communities and friends in our communities. And so I want to say that this morning, what is happening here in Guilford County, which used to be a sanctuary city, what is happening here is anti-Christian, as well as it is anti-American, because it takes away Miss Marlon Ivan Mendez's legal rights to be able to have due process of the law, to be able to share in those rights that every American is granted, and it is an encroachment upon his inalienable rights as a human being. And so we want to stand in solidarity. We also want to say, as Umoja Church, that we will continue to work and commit ourselves to working with Siembra and other organizations to protect black and brown communities from the extension of the law enforcement agents, as well as encourage other black faith spaces to get involved to help protect our brown brothers and sisters and siblings within our community. Thank you all for allowing me to share this morning.
My name's Pastor Matt Caniff-Kiesecker. I serve Prince of Peace Lutheran Church here in Greensboro. You don't have to be a person of faith or of religious conviction to be appalled by the behavior of our government against immigrants and people of color and refugees, but I am a person of faith, a leader of a faith community, and I'm here to say that my congregation is outraged by how our neighbors are being treated. I mean, being taken, it's like literally the nightmare that we fear for our children, being taken by people who don't announce themselves to places that we don't know, families being ripped apart. We should all be appalled. My congregation is part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We have a long history of working to resettle refugees in our country and welcoming immigrants. And the federal government is currently leading a concerted attack against our firmly held religious beliefs that this is what God calls us to do. And so I'm responding to this call to stand with other people of faith and other concerned neighbors today to say that we're not going to stand for it. I'm going to encourage my congregation to give to the Immigrant Solidarity Fund. We're going to participate in neighborhood watches to keep ourselves safe. We're going to join our prayers along with all these other people that Marlon is returned to his family. We're going to keep standing in solidarity because we know God's heart is breaking. And while God cries, we cry for our neighbors too. Amen.
My name is Reverend Tuhina Verma-Rash, and I am one of the pastors of the Anam Cara community. Anam Cara means soul friend, and my faith tradition calls us to be soul friends to one another, especially to the orphan, the widow, and the sojourner, and especially the sojourner in these days. We cannot have a country that proclaims that it is based on Christian values when it is completely and entirely disregarding those values to care for the sojourner, to care for the immigrant. Part of this being a soul friend means showing up, means bearing witness. And so in bearing witness, it means keeping watch at the Guilford County Courthouse, to providing funds to ensure that people's safety especially if they're trying to do right by systems and structures that have been put in place, that can continue, and to encourage public safety. We must be soul friends to one another, and especially Marlon must come home.
Good morning. My name is Pastor Michael Dixon. I serve the First Lutheran Church here in Greensboro and the North Carolina office of the Bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. I'm here called by God, who leads us out into public following the Spirit. We are here. I am personally committing to help raise funds for the Immigrant Solidarity Fund and to bring out people to help to control, to watch for ICE and protect our community. But I am here because no one benefits from ICE's actions yesterday. No one benefits from this sort of detention.
Yeah.
A young immigrant father-to-be does not benefit. This 8-month pregnant citizen woman who was handcuffed yesterday, she does not benefit from these actions. This soon-to-be-born child will not benefit from these actions. Our society, the fabric of Greensboro, of North Carolina, does not benefit from these actions. In the Lutheran tradition, we say that we are theologians not of glory, but theologians of the cross, which is to say that we do not look for God in laws and victory, but in suffering. We do not look for God in control and force, but in those who are victims of force. We look for God not in beautiful systems of law and courthouses, but in those who are hurt, those we look for in the stranger, in the foreigner, in the immigrant among us. That is the question before us as people of faith. As people of the United States, there's a very similar question before us, and that is, every morning we have this question again: are we to be the country of internment camps or the country of the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah.
That is our challenge. And my vote is for that which bears the words of Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. Light my lamp beside the golden door. Thank you.
My name is Reverend Wesley Morris. I'm the pastor of Faith Community Church here in Greensboro, North Carolina. I am thankful to be standing among faith leaders who have decided not to be quiet, but to come into the public square and to lift our voices together. Like many who are gathered here, in late January or February, I began to see videos of residents, of brothers and sisters, of kindred folks who were approached by plainclothes officers in nondescript vehicles, pull up to houses and residential areas and pull people from their homes. Seen videos of people who go to a laundromat and are encountering plainclothes officers of the law and take them into detention. About late January, late February, I was on Capitol Hill and I heard from two sitting senators, one who had been a senator for 15 years, and he said he had not seen policies move so swift and so cruel in his entire life. I want to say that what is happening in other places and what is happening there has always been happening here.
Yeah.
There is a building not too far away from here that was a jail, a detention center, being renovated into a new jail. I remember policies such as 287G in this community, which caused fear and terror, and it was a strike to the human conscience and our humanity. What I know to be true is that we are better than this. What I also know to be true is that we won't be better than this unless we do something about this right now.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, you can look, and if you're watching this, look at somebody beside you. Because this is not an immigration issue, a detention issue, it is a community issue. We eat at restaurants together, we go to laundromats together, we enjoy the park together, and any one of us can have the kind of fear that's with people for generations. When you are detained without cause in a country where habeas corpus is being debated on whether or not it should exist. The very foundations of justice are shaking. And I pray for the poor child who has seen the worst of our humanity before it has been able to take its first breath. I am committed to lifting my voice in this public square, and before I even closed my eyes last night, members of my congregation were texting me about the horror that was experienced, not in some other state, not in some other city, but here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I hope that Greensboro, North Carolina can do something about it, speak about it, and actually cause a change. Thank you.
You're watching live right now a press conference in front of the Guilford County Courthouse after a man was detained by ICE yesterday at a laundromat. His pregnant fiancée set to share her story, as well as, like you've heard from some of the local ministers,